Geca Italia is a company with more than 10 years of experience monitoring television. Its staff comprises 80 professionals trained and specialized in the field of audiovisual analysis and communication. The work group directly involved in monitoring social political pluralism is composed of 48 junior and senior analysts. The analysts are supervised by 8 professionals who coordinate the productive workflow. Their work hours are divided into shifts, which provide total coverage of the workday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The monitoring process is carried out by own softwares developed by the technical staff of Geca Italia. The first phase of the monitoring consists in scheduling the television programming. The monitoring is made on the programming of 15 channels of the most important public and private Italian networks: Rai, Mediaset, La Sette, Sky, Viacom, La F Repubblica TV over a 24-hour period. Let's analyze the schedule of the PBS, Public Broadcasting Service, Rai 1. The software offers the possibility of accessing the videos of the broadcasting station at any time in order to evaluate its on-the-air television programming.
Che ha tradito la Costituzione, di spezzare le catene della schiavitù delle lobby e dei grandi...
Through the function key, the analyst registers the starting time of the program and proceeds to gather the information. During the scheduling process of the show, the analyst identifies and registers the presence of the guest politicians on the television programs, identifying the political or institutional role presented during the program. It researches the political subject's name from the database and records it. At the end of the day, a map of the presences of the politicians on the TV is obtained. This activity is important for evaluating the presence of political and institutional persons also in programs of entertainment. In fact, the law establishes that the space dedicated to politicians in programs of entertainment must be monitored as an information space. When the last hour of the ending program has been recorded, you click on key F3 to access the database of the archived programs and select the title of the program that is being broadcast. The programs of each broadcasting station are archived in a dynamic database, updated every day, which contains the information regarding the titles and the television genres. In this phase, the analyst chooses the program and classifies it based on the characteristics of the television format. In this case, the analyst chooses Porta a Porta, a current affairs debate program. At the end of the recording, it is possible to visualize the programming grid of the broadcasting station, which supplies the following information: title of the program, beginning and ending time of the broadcast, duration of the program, and program genre. This type of monitoring is useful for knowing all of the episodes of a program and how many program hours the broadcast station dedicate to the news and current affairs programs. The classification of the genre is fundamental for distinguishing and identifying the programs that will be analyzed during the social-political monitoring phase. It is during this phase that the current affairs program, in this case Porta a Porta, are separated from the actual news programs. The scheduling of the show is made first by identifying all of the news that are broadcast during the analyzed day. The analyst registers the beginning and ending data of the program and accesses the broadcast station's database to select the news. During this phase, the analyst must indicate the specific edition of the news, in this case, Edizione Meridiana, the southern version, thus facilitating the following checks of the main news editions. When identified, the daily show schedule is processed and archived in the database, ready to be monitored by the analysts in charge of analyzing the social-political pluralism. Social-political monitoring consists in the quantitative gathering of the following information: presence of political figures, in other words, individual political representatives, candidates, parties, or political movements, presence of institutional subjects, as the President of the Republic, Presidents of the Senate and the Chamber of Deputies, the Prime Minister, government, presence of social subjects, such as union members, associations and organizations, religious groups, representatives of the economic world, etc., speech time and news time used by the subjects in TV, and topics brought up in news, current affairs programs, and talk shows. All of the people who appear on TV are archived in a database that is updated daily. For example, Napolitano, name, in this case Giorgio, sex, institutional or political role, in this case it is institutional since it's concerning the President of the Republic. Let's see how a political figure like Enrico Letta is registered and archived in a database. Enrico Letta is an important representative of the Democratic Party and currently is not covering any institutional role. We attribute the role of political subject to Enrico Letta and select his political party, the Democratic Party, from the list of all of the parties that form the Italian political arena. The time and presences of Enrico Letta will also be automatically attributed to the Democratic Party. During the monitoring, it is fundamental to distinguish the institutional role from the political role of the identified subject. The same subject can have different roles. For example, Enrico Letta appears in the database in the institutional role of Prime Minister, covered until February 21st, and in the political role of representative of the Democratic Party. Now, let's verify how a current affair program is analyzed. During the first phase of gathering information, the analyst selects the broadcasting station and the program to monitor from the list of the scheduled programs. We have selected the program Ballarò, one of Rai 3's most followed current affairs programs. The analyst registers the broadcasting station and selects the time slot, in this case, prime time. The identification program opens at the top part of the screen, and the information of the broadcast, which includes the program's beginning, ending time, and duration, appears. The analyst proceeds to elaborate the program schedule. Each portion of the debate is summarized by a brief description of the content and classified according to the nature of the topic. In this way, it is possible to know the political agenda of the current affairs programs and know what the debate topics are on the Italian television. During the monitoring, the analyst identifies and registers the presence of all of the politicians and institutional and social subjects who participate in the debate. In this case, the speech time of Laura Ravetto, a political representative of Forza Italia party, is registered. In the current affairs programs, only the speech time, that is the amount of time the political subject actually intervenes, is registered. In this portion of the debate, Laura Ravetto talks uninterruptedly for 120 seconds. The analyst registers her speech time, giving a concise description of her opinion and intervention. The analyst proceeds and registers all of the direct interventions, speech time, of the political subject. The analyst proceeds and registers all of the direct interventions, speech time, of the political subject, being careful to to distinguish the portions of the debate where the guest is interrupted by the presenter or other guests. Usually, a current affairs program is comprised of 15 news items that correspond to the debate block. Once the monitoring is over, the analyst publishes the information on the database by clicking the key End. Now, let's analyze how a news is monitored. We will select TG1, the main news of the RAI and Italian television. The analyst registers the news, in this case TG1, and points out if it is a main edition or not. Even in this case, the information concerning the programming of the news is gathered automatically by the analysis software. The analyst proceeds to create the news items classified by major topic and minor topic. The monitoring continues with the registration of the headlines read by the presenter in the studio.
Dopo il sì del Senato ora tocca alla Camera. Renzi si inizia a lavorare sul serio. Domani scuole, lavoratori, sindaci, imprenditori a Treviso.
In this case, the presenter gives information on the newly elected Prime Minister Matteo Renzi. Through the quick access keys, the analyst measures Matteo Renzi's news time. That is the time that the TV reporter dedicates to a specific political subject. Unlike the current affairs programs, only in the news there are two different times measured. Speech time, the time used directly by the political, institutional, or social subject through interviews or declarations, and news time, the time that the reporter dedicates to the political subject. This type of time is also known as indirect time. In this case, 3 news time seconds are identified for Matteo Renzi. This means that the journalist spoke about Matteo Renzi for 3 seconds. After having registered the news time, the analyst begins to research the subject database, indicating the surname and name of the subject. In the database, there are 3 roles performed by Matteo Renzi. Matteo Renzi, classified with the institutional role of Prime Minister. Matteo Renzi, classified with the political role of representative of the Democratic Party. And Matteo Renzi, classified with the role of Mayor of Florence. In this case, the journalist talks about Matteo Renzi's election as Prime Minister. The analyst selects the institutional role and attributes 3 news seconds to the Prime Minister. After having correctly identified the institutional role, the analyst briefly describes the content of what the journalist said. He then proceeds to assign a keyword to the indirect intervention, for example, vote of confidence, which facilitates the gathering of data and the following qualitative analysis.
Buongiorno dal TG1 incassata.
For each news or television program, the presenter's name and surname are registered by searching in the database. The analyst proceeds to monitor by writing the content of the news and listening to the on-the-air news. When Prime Minister Matteo Renzi starts talking, the analyst presses the function key F5 and clicks again when he ends.
Sicuro che il Truman Show talvolta non sia nella vostra mente anziché nell'opinione dei cittadini. Quando si parla di fronte al Senato non si sta parlando con delle persone lontane dall'opinione pubblica, si sta parlando con i rappresentanti dei cittadini, ai quali si deve rispetto, e mi pare di non aver mancato, ma ai quali si deve un linguaggio di franchezza e trasparenza.
In this case, the Prime Minister intervenes directly, so the 24 seconds are measured as speech time. The analyst describes the content of the intervention reported in the news and selects a keyword. All of the registered interventions appear on the bottom part of the screen. The analyst then proceeds to analyze each news item one by one. Let's now analyze the presence of a social subject in the news. The TV reporter in the studio is talking about Pope Francis.
Ancora le famiglie nei pensieri di Papa Francesco. Il pontefice scrive e chiede loro di sentirsi parte del prossimo sinodo di ottobre. Aldo Maria Valli.
The analyst selects the topic religion and measures the news time, which means the 7 seconds that the journalist dedicated to the social subject Pope Francis. The analyst selects the name of Pope Francis in the database and describes what the journalist said when he gave the news. He proceeds by registering all of the news. Every news consists of about 30 news items. After having processed all of the news, the analyst makes sure that the news time and speech time are attributed correctly. He then ends the process. The information gathered from TG1 broadcast on February 25th is then archived and published on the website. The monitoring data processed by Geca Italia are archived in an online database accessible on the web by a login via user ID and password. The site can be consulted from any PC or Mac station and can be browsed using tablet and smartphone. The online database, dedicated to social political pluralism, is composed of different sections. News, that contains the registered data of the news. Current affairs programs, in other words, data about the current affair programs and talk shows dedicated to the current events. Contents, where it is possible to access the schedule of the monitored programs. Research, where it is possible to search the database with simple and advanced questions. Political communication. And report. Let's analyze the data of the political and institutional pluralism in the news and verify the speech time of the political and institutional subjects and parties. The web database allows you to arrange the research parameters thanks to an easy-to-consult menu. It is possible to select the news being broadcast on the various channels. The editions, distinguishing among all of the editions broadcast that day or only the main day editions. Times, distinguishing speech time from news time from antenna time, in other words, the sum of speech time and news time, and the period of analysis. Let's analyze the month of February. The result of the analysis can be navigated and can show the speech time in absolute values and percentages of the political and institutional subjects divided by news, with the total result for each news. Each site report can be exported and printed in PDF format for an easier offline consultancy and XLS format to cater the elaboration needs of the user. By clicking on the parties, you can access the ranking of the political representatives of the selected party. In this case, by clicking on Democratic Party, it is possible to visualize the speech time used by the representatives of the Democratic Party. The times of the political subjects are divided by news and ordered according to the duration of the intervention. By clicking on the subject's name, in this case the Secretary of the Democratic Party, Matteo Renzi, you can access the details of the interventions recorded in the period. It is possible to verify the news where Matteo Renzi has intervened or has been quoted and know the duration of the interventions. The platform offers the possibility of visualizing the video of the selected interventions in streaming. This is a useful tool which allows the authorities to make prompt evaluations of the declarations, even in case of objections and petitions.
Come è stato fatto. Questo è l'anno in cui o i problemi si risolvono o è bene non avere più il coraggio di parlarne di città metropolitane e di altri temi legati alle riforme.
By clicking on the date, it is possible to analyze the schedule of the program where the intervention was registered. All of the information regarding the news is reported, classified by topic, and summarized with a brief description of the content. The section Topic Time offers the possibility of analyzing the topics reported in the news. Let's select TG1, TG2, and TG3. Select all the editions on the air during the day, and let's verify the data of February 2014 by clicking on the search key. The result is a report that shows how much time each news dedicated to each topic. For example, let's verify the politics topic. It is possible to verify which news and for how much time this topic was discussed for during the month of February. For example, by clicking on TG1, the database gives the possibility of verifying all of the news classified in the politics topic. Let's now go on verifying the ranking of the political and institutional subjects. In other words, who registered more interventions in the month of February. Let's select TG1, TG2, and TG3, and then click on Speech Time from the Timing menu. In a few seconds, it is possible to verify the list of the political and institutional subjects who intervened in that period. The duration of the intervention and the political or institutional role is specified for each subject. By clicking on Matteo Renzi, ranking at the top, besides verifying his detailed sheet containing the description of the news and his interventions, we can also put the news in the context of the program where they were identified. The database also offers the possibility of evaluating the ranking of the parties to verify their media exposure on the different broadcasting stations in the desired period. In this case, by clicking on the party, we can access to the list of the representatives who have made declarations in the analyzed period. By clicking on the name of the political subject, for example, Roberto Speranza, President of the Democratic Party at the Chamber of Deputies, it is possible to directly access his detailed sheet with a thematic description of all of the interventions made by him. The database offers also various possibilities for research on current affairs programs, and more in general, on all monitored programs that differ from the news. The selected menus offer the possibility of personalizing the research on all the channels. Let's choose, for example, the programs on the air on Rai Uno. It is also possible to elaborate the gathered information by selecting a specific time slot and period of analysis. Therefore, the user has the possibility of verifying the speech time of the parties during the current affairs programs. By clicking on the party, Lega Nord, we can verify how much the representatives of the party talked during the TV show. The Geca Italia database allows for conducting research on the topics brought up on TV programs in order to verify how much space was dedicated to the topics of the political agenda from the different broadcasting stations. For example, during the month of February, the programs of Rai Uno talked for a total of 30 hours about politics. By clicking on the major topic, it is possible to visualize which Rai Uno programs dealt with political topics that day. The user can decide the layout of the page. By clicking on the individual programs, you can access the detailed database and news dedicated to the topic of the day. In this section, it is also possible to access the ranking to verify which political subject talked the most in programs and current affairs debates. For example, let's select the programs of the Public Broadcasting Service in the month of February. Scrolling down the ranking, it is possible to verify the speech time of the political and institutional subjects. Let's click on Matteo Salvini, the secretary of the Lega Nord party, and analyze his interventions. The section Party Ranking offers the possibility of verifying which parties are most represented on the Italian TV programs and current affairs debates. For example, in the month of February, the Current Affairs program dedicated more space to the Democratic Party and Forza Italia. The site also offers the possibility of evaluating the time the Current Affairs program dedicates to the social subjects. In other words, labor unions and associations, major representatives of the economic and cultural world, religious groups, etc. The database offers a section dedicated to the contents. For example, let's select the TG1 of February 25th. The report shows all of the news of TG1 classified by topic and content. An intuitive icon system allows for the identification of the speech and news time gathered from the news. The scheduling of the program also offers the possibility of accessing the detailed interventions of the political, institutional, and social subjects by just clicking on it. For example, let's verify what the journalist says on Pope Francis through the video. For every gathered news item, it is possible to access directly to the video.
Francesco, alle famiglie di tutto il mondo, se manca l'amore di Cristo, manca la gioia attesa per il Sinodo di ottobre.
In this way, we can evaluate the political agenda of the moment and watch portions of programs.
Dopo il sì del Senato, ora tocca alla Camera. Renzi si inizia a lavorare sul serio. Domani scuole, lavoratori, sindaci, imprenditori.
Besides the guided way, the database of Geca Italia offers the possibility of researching simple and advanced questions to support the various survey needs. For example, activating a research on parties, it is possible to verify the time used by the parties on the individual broadcast stations and choose a specific news or current affairs program. The research can be crossed with specific topics that are defined by keywords and constantly updated by the analysts of Geca Italia. In very little time, it is possible to analyze how much time is dedicated to the two parties by broadcasters and individual programs. Researching subjects allows for evaluating the media exposure of the subjects on the individual channels with just a few clicks. For example, let's verify the space dedicated to the President of the Republic, Giorgio Napolitano, on the public broadcasting service, RAI. By clicking on the subject, one has a report that indicates declarations, interviews, or citations of the subject made during the TV programs. By clicking on Napolitano's name, we access a list of news dedicated to the President of the Republic. For example, during the month of February, TG1 dedicated a total of 1 hour and 44 minutes to President Napolitano. Researching programs on the database allows us to analyze advanced surveys and verify which guests and subjects issued statements during the programs. It is a very useful tool also during the political campaigns because it allows us to evaluate the par condicio and political pluralism on the Italian networks. In the menu programs, let's insert the title of the program. For example, Porta a Porta. We have the possibility of verifying the presence of individual parties, understanding in which episodes specific topics were brought up, and, for example, researching data from the portions of studio debate. Let's select a period of analysis in the software that underlines all of the episodes that were broadcast. Let's now select all of the episodes and start the researching process. The result is a report that indicates the guest who intervened during the program for each episode. At this point, we can access the schedule of the program or click on Political Institutional Subject and verify how many times a subject was hosted in a program in the duration of his direct interventions. By clicking on Parties, it is possible to verify how much space the program gave to the individual parties. By clicking on Social Categories, it is possible to verify how much space the programs gave to the social subjects, category associations, religious groups, representatives of the economic world, journalists, etc. Thanks to many years of experience in audience analysis, Geca Italia has created a navigable platform dedicated to Auditel's ratings. Every day, it is possible to access show schedules of the most important networks and the summary of the programs that were broadcast, together with the registered shares. By clicking on the individual program, we access the target chart. In other words, the program's public profile data and its share information. In this way, it is possible to evaluate the impact that TV information has on public users. In this case, the episode of the current affairs program Ballarò was seen on TV by a total of 3 million people and almost obtained a 12% share. The program was mostly seen by men whose age was over 55. Every day, it is possible to research the reaction of the audience based on the content, topic, and statements made by the guests. This is possible by crossing the data of the presences of the political subjects on TV with a minute-by-minute monitoring system. For example, in the case of current affair programs, besides the share, it is also possible to quantify the type of audience. After that, we measure the media exposure reached by the guests. It is also possible to evaluate which topics obtain more consensus by crossing the debates with the minute-by-minute share. For example, in this case, it is possible to identify the number of people who watched Prime Minister Matteo Renzi's interview broadcast on Ballarò. At 11 p.m., more than 3 million people were listening to the Prime Minister, who was talking about the fiscal moves he will make during the new government. The database also offers the possibility of researching any subject and verifying which programs hosted or spoke about them. For example, let's verify which primetime programs hosted or talked about Prime Minister Matteo Renzi. With a simple click, it is possible to put the TV presence of the subject on the program in context and measure its share. For example, in this case, the research program of channel La Sette connects to the Chamber of Deputies, so one can follow Matteo Renzi's speech before the vote of confidence.